Hey, Vincent, thanks so much for joining me on a well designed business today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I am too. And you don't know this because I didn't tell you, but you have been on my wish list for 8 years. And I think over the years, I have randomly reached out. Um, and now it's happening. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. You're like, a big deal. You're like one of those people in the industry.
That have survived. Actually, that's a topic of our conversation, right?
That's right. That's right. Because you know what? I have not reached the level of accomplishment that you have, but I have survived 4 decades in business. And that is the key, right? It is the combination of having some smart, street smarts, having some chops, having some business acumen, but you have to like just plain survive, don't you?
Yes, at whatever level you are. I mean, it's especially in an area like New York where it's like everybody's trying to climb the ladder. So, Twyla Tharp, the choreographer, said to me a long time ago that if you just want to stay where you are, you have to still be trying harder because there's so many people behind wanting
Yes.
to, take your place. So,
That's right. That's right. And so what has it been for you like going back the multiple decades that you've been in business and you've been designing? I've interviewed nearly 1,000 designers now, Vincent, and there are designers at a young age that have said to me, I want to be the Latina Martha Stewart. I want to be the la la la, the la la. So when you started, was that like a legitimate out loud in your brain goal to be an iconic designer with multiple books and projects across the globe? Or did it evolve and you just, talent and expertise blended to create it?
I don't know if it's good or bad. I live day by day. So no, really, really, when I
Okay.
started, it was, what am I going to do today? What job do we have? I the idea of a long term plan. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to succeed. But I was very lucky because my partner at the time, Bob Patino, we succeeded from the beginning. I mean, we were doing
Mm.
design that wasn't the norm. So there was the Saladinos and the Dorsos and the Bray Scheibels that we were all doing something that had not been done before in 30, 40, 50 years. So it was very easy. It wasn't, it hasn't, I find it to be a bigger struggle now than it was then.
Mm.
Because it was just, every day was, when you start with nothing,
Mm.
every day is better.
Right,
When
right.
you accomplish, then you have to like, just try to stay at that level. So,
And so do you think that in the beginning when you're saying you were lucky, right? Now, like, look, it's got to be. It always is more than luck. Their luck can and often does play a part. But the thing is, do you look back and think there was a difference in the design? There was a difference in your ability, right?
forget my ability. There was a difference in design. We were, I think, uh, again, I mean, I'm not going back to the 30s and 40s, but in this sort of, you know, period of the 20th century when we started, uh, designers weren't doing chintz and tie back. That's all they were doing. They were decorating. When we started, we were designing, we were doing architecture, we were designing the furniture, we were creating environments that weren't about the past, but looking forward to the future. And
Mm,
so it was a totally, open ground. Uh, so I think that it was so exciting because the work, I think that we're living right now in a period of time where it's all regurgitation. It's,
Mm,
the spaces are, there's there's no ground being broken. So it makes it very hard because everybody's sort of thinking the same way of, unless you're very traditional, or just very severe on the other end. But if
mm,
you're in the majority, everybody's sort of thinking the same sort of thing. At that time, we were thinking like nobody else was thinking. And that was just so amazing. So, yes, there was the inventiveness to unconsciously to look at design in a different way. But it wasn't something that was, like a plan. It just was,
okay.
we were thinking in a, I don't know. I was going to say through a tunnel, but it wasn't a tunnel. There was the direction. That was the
Mm,
way of thinking. Partly because both Bob and myself had no design schooling, had
okay.
only the schooling of life. He worked in the showroom. I started working in the showroom, sweeping the floors. So it was a blank canvas.
Mm,
If you went to Parson and or you worked for Macmillan or you worked for Parish Hadley, you were already being set within a mold of a way of
mm.
thinking. We had, we didn't have any of that. We were just, you know, I don't know. I like chicken, so every day I eat chicken. It was like thinking of what was natural and what was, the way of thinking. The way that I am putting it across right now was really the way it was then. It wasn't okay, now we're going to do this. No, we got a job and you took that job and you tried to clean it up, make it modern, eliminate the mundane, and be inventive in the approach that you were using with all the different elements in creating that space.
It's interesting because as you're talking, Vincent, I'm, melding together all the thousand conversations I've had with designers. And I I'm looking and what I'm trying to do is I think you can call me out. You can say, "No, you're mistaken," because obviously you should if I am. But it almost feels like there is a blind spot in you that recognizes that your design is not normal. Like, it's and I get it because it's truly your talent, but having looked at 1,000 different designers' websites, there are many, many, many tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of designers across the world that have a desire, that have a passion, but you said something in there. We looked at it and we wanted to make it better, make it more creative, make it different, not just regurgitate what something else was done. And that I think is so deep in you that maybe you don't see it as a superpower. I don't know.
Yes, but you see, the problem is one created a program, a program that was very unique at the time. It got developed through decades, from very stark, where every piece was in the same fabric and every line was or curved or straight, and evolved into, not a, I hate the word eclectic, but it developed into environments that are individual in how I see the client and how I think. But that has become the vocabulary now.
Right,
So
right.
it's when you say, it's a bigger struggle now because I look at jobs. This may sound ridiculous, but I was in Instagram looking and I said, oh my God, I don't remember that job. And I realized it wasn't my job. It was somebody doing, thinking through the same, you know,
Lens.
that, thank you, that I do. And that is a problem because no longer you create an environment that stands unique. You are thinking, other people are thinking through the same
Not at all. Not at all.
lens.
Yeah, yeah.
I was at a book signing of a friend of ours that did a new book. And this person came up to me and he said, "My God, I remember you in the 90s. What you did was like so amazing. Nobody else was doing those things." And I said, "Who gives a, excuse the word, about that? I want to know, what is it doing now that is unique? Who cares what
Mm,
it was then? I care now. I want my work not to stand on the past, but stand on the present." And when I'm designing every time, yes, I bring certain ideas from other jobs, but I'm looking at each job as, how can the job be a job that doesn't speak of, oh, that's a Vincent Wolf room. I mean, I guess it always will be a Vincent Wolf room because that's who's doing it. But it's very hard. It's very hard
yeah.
because grounds are not being broken, or people are not all diversing into what their own point of view is. It's
Mm.
more about what's, the norm.
So it sounds like that you are experiencing a frustration with the industry in general of the leaning on, say, Pinterest or Instagram for an inspiration for a room that a designer would then go and put together for their client, as opposed to looking inward for what really is in them and their interpretation of where that room should go or should be. Is that what you're expressing?
Yes, but were the design magazines before there was Pinterest, and
Right. Okay.
designers weren't. Yes, there was a small percent or a level of designer percentage that was doing whatever was coming out in the magazines just to be. But I don't know
Hmm.
that that's. I think now the sense of individuality has sort of disseminated, and
Mm.
I don't understand. Is it, when I started, I mean, and I still do, look at books, look at the past, look at, what David Hicks did and how he did it and what are the details that he did, to then take it and develop my own point of view. But
Rather than repeat it,
right,
you're
right.
building and
Well,
interpreting.
what I always say to people here is, you know, you look through a book and something hits you, close that book and now put your vision of what that way of thinking down. Don't
Right.
copy it, because
Right.
then it is no longer individual. But
Right.
I have people that work for me and have worked through the years that don't know who Billy Baldwin was, who don't know who David Hicks was, who don't understand Lelou, or they don't. It's like
That almost seems crazy, right? That doesn't it almost seem
upsetting
crazy?
because it's destroying our industry.
Yeah,
Because
I mean
I'm sorry.
is it I'm sorry, no, I mean, it almost seems like being involved in computer, inventions of computer programming or platforms or software or whatever, and not knowing who Steve Jobs is. It's sort of like, know your world, right? Like, know where you come from, know what the influences are, know what the the gold standards are, right?
Well, how can you move forward if you don't know the past?
Yeah.
Because you can take the past and then develop the future. But when it's just what is being seen, I mean, I have clients that walk in, and, oh, here's my lookbook. And, that's good for me because what it shows me is, what colors but they're they're making design decisions without understanding the how, the where, you know, that creates those particular points of views.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just, like say, oh, how do you mix furniture together? Oh, that's so incredible. Well, because I've traveled, I've looked, I've educated myself in pulling out of environments the things that appeal to me. And if I am selecting all those things through the eye, of course they're going to work together because
Right.
it's all being, yes, it may be African or 18th century, but there's the same style soul that ties them all together. But you look at rooms in magazines, and it's just like throw it together without understanding what you're throwing together.
What I'm hearing is you trust your own creativity. You trust it. That's what I'm hearing. Like if you like you mentioned, there's something is one influence, some piece of furniture is another influence, and a garden variety designer might be like, well, how do you mix them together? But you're seeing what it is that's common, that's not exact, that's not a duplicate, but the through line through it, like you said, the eye
But
through it, and then you trust it. You're just like, this is what goes together. I don't need outside approval on this.
how can you break ground if you don't trust your gut?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah,
it's your gut that's saying this is right. And
yeah.
again, that comes from, I think, for me anyway, not having schooling, not having rules that were set for me, but just the things that to me that looks right. Uh,
So that's an interesting, side thing there, Vincent. So, of course, I've interviewed dozens of accomplished designers that
thousands,
also yes,
thousands.
that don't have well, but I mean, that don't have the formal schooling,
Uh,
right? So it's there's no shade on this show that somebody is or isn't formally trained because there's just too many examples like
mm.
yourself that are just so talented, and it does throw the argument out the water. However, my question is, without the schooling and without the technical, the like scale and proportion, I understand that can be something you could know in your heart and your soul. You don't need to be taught that. I know that for a fact. But the other technical aspects, when you were starting in the beginning, did you surround yourself with subs or with hiring people in your team that are actually going to do the stamp drawings and the things like that? Like, how did you
No,
cross
but
that?
I,
Because
I was an
you
in.
weren't like just doing living rooms
I,
here.
w- I was working for. I worked for people. I,
Okay,
I
so you started
learned.
by working for
Yeah,
others.
I mean, people come
Gotcha.
to me in school and say, "Well, I'm graduating, and I want to open my business." I say, "How can you open your business when you
Thank
don't
you.
understand business?
Thank you.
How
Okay.
Who's going to pay for your mistakes? The client?"
Right.
No, I learned by just doing, by working for people, I would take jobs again because I didn't go to school, but I would find a plan. I would design the space. I would create all the elements that it took to get it to that stage. You know, you learn. I mean, you learn how far is the table from the sofa. You, you know, 50 years, I sit with, or I stand with people on job sites and they say, oh, well, this is the problem. I say, no, you solved this problem because I know that you better measure that sofa, the width, the length, and look at the hallway outside because if not, you're not going to get into that space. And then who's going to pay for it? The client's not going to
Everybody makes that mistake once, it
want.
seems like, right?
I mean, but there's all those things that, you okay, I was in Egypt in January. I'm looking at this painted wall of a tomb, and it has reeds of papyrus, and then in the bottom there was a band. So all of a sudden I looked at it and I said, "Oh, I like to do recessed bases into the wall, so the wall and the baseboard is all at one level." I said, "Wouldn't it be great to do the look of the reeds at the bottom of a solid, smooth wall, and then the recessed base having like the scoops of
Oh, wow.
So it gives it a sense of, Greek or
Yeah.
Egyptian to a modern space, and nobody would
Mhm.
look at it and say, "Oh, that's a Greek or Egyptian influence." Those things you learn with time and with experience, and to venture forward out of school where all you've been given is rules and trying to fit you within a box, and then start doing work for other people. Of course, it's not going to be inventive. And yes, maybe 1 in 10 will be, but in
Right.
general, it won't be. It'll just be a cookie cutter situation because in school, they haven't been looking at books, they haven't been learning history, they've been doing projects and looking to see what ideas they can copy to include in their work.
I love it. And the thing is, so when we say you ended up working for other firms before you started your own
I
firm.
got fired
Now
out of all of them.
best entrepreneurs usually do.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I feel like there's couple of stories in there, but maybe one day when we have a glass of wine
Well,
at one of the markets, you'll tell me those stories. Um, so question, when you are hiring in your firm and you introduce new team members, um, I'm not hearing that there's a bias to hiring somebody who has a formal education, but it's just what's that next section? Are you coming out and are you traveling? Are you learning history? Are you working for others to expand beyond the rules is what I'm hearing.
but okay. One thing I learned, I'm dyslexic. I can't spell. I have sometimes no memory. Um, I have a lot of shortcomings. So when I'm hiring people, I'm looking for the people that fill in what I'm not good at.
That's awesome.
Um, are they talented? That's great. I mean,
Right.
because you want juice. But I'm more interested in, are you filling in the gaps of the things that make a job successful?
Mm,
Maybe not in the creative, but in being organized,
yes.
knowing how to do CAD and all that, which to me, I think killed part of the creativity because when you put a paper to pencil or pencil to paper in a scale ruler, you understand that job much more than if you're just typing it like a secretary into a computer. But
Interesting.
it is what it is. So I'm looking for people that are very organized, that are very clear in how they come across. Because if you're on the job site and you're like discombobulated, that contractor, that workman is not going to fully get your message. So
Mm,
those are the things that I'm looking, and talent. But,
and talent.
it's, I'm very selfish because I'm doing this because I love design. So to have a firm with 200 people and have them doing all the designs and you're going
It's not
out and
easy.
getting the client. I'm not good at going out and getting the client. So, and I've had people that I've interviewed. Oh, well, I love finding one of a kind pieces and designing rooms and picking colors. And I say, and what am I going to do?
Right. Thanks so
Just
much.
sign your check? If you do that, I could get fired. You know. So it's, but when they come in here, and what I've learned is I have people that work for me that have a lot of experience, but three-quarters are people that are just starting because I find it easier to train somebody to think the way we think
Yeah.
than to get somebody that thinks one way and convince them to think another way. The
Yeah, yeah.
people that have experience in how do you manage a job? How do you, that organization of this goes and then this goes and then this goes, which I am not good at. I'm good at overseeing it, but I'm not good at.
Believe me, we're two of the same, like literally. I mean, it is the thing, right? Somebody is the creative, somebody is the lead, somebody is the visionary, somebody is the one that understands the goals and the mission and the direction. And then we need the best people around us to help us execute it. It's our job to make sure they understand our mission and our vision and our values, right? But you're right. Like, we don't want to get fired from our own companies.
But the people that are new, that are starting, when they leave here and they leave, they're leaving understanding really about trusting your gut,
Mm,
about how do you run a job business wise. How do you look at things and not just take it off the top, but really understand what is that decision that you're making, and is that the best way to resolve the problem. And I think that, you know it's good that they leave that way.
and so that's a good, point. With someone like yourself who, like you said, this is what you wanna do. You don't wanna not design. There are iconic design firms, larger design firms, iconic or not, that the goal of the principal is to get to the point to be rainmaker, to oversee the project at certain touch points, and to have, train up and inspire up people within their team to lead the design. But that's not yours. And you like being in the weeds doing the design. So with that comes almost this inherent idea that there is going to be an expiration date on almost any creative that comes to you that has this goal to be the one with the vision for the design, whether it's a 3 year, 5 year, 8 year role. But they must come in understanding, I'm going to come in, I'm going to soak it all up, I'm going to try and learn, I'm going to try and just be next to a master for as many years. But it's a training and a stopping ground. It's not, I'm going to be here for 25 years, right?
Well, no, because I've had people work for me for 25 years.
Ah,
But when they come in and I look at that resume and I was 1 year in this place and 1 year in this place, 1 year in this place, it's like, forget it.
uh-oh.
It takes
Uh-oh.
a year to at least to train somebody.
Yes.
No, you're not going to ride my coattails and put me on your resume to get the next 1 year job.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
I think that because we're a small firm, uh, you know, I'm doing a sandwich shop around the corner from here. I'm not charging him. I've been going in there for since 1988. And for 4 years, I've been telling him, you need to do something with
You need to
this place.
spruce it up.
I mean, so I said, I'll design it for you. So it's the sense of the design compared to doing a townhouse uptown. Um, they're seeing that. They're seeing that. They're seeing that we're doing sets, that we do restaurants, that we, just create,
Yes.
and the freedom of not get the job that's the right budget and that's your goal. The goal
Right.
is to create and to do it without con- understand no acceptance of the budget, but because this hour he gave me $10,000 to do the space. How do we design that? Make it like people who pass by in the street. Wow, let me go in there for ten
So
thousand.
10,000 is the budget for the design part of it. Like,
No,
or
materials, the whole
that's
thing.
what I'm like, oh, that's what I meant. It's like the fixtures. In other words, you're probably getting paid in salami sandwiches, right? It's like
Turkey sandwiches, turkey
turkey
sandwiches.
sandwich.
No, it's like I see the man work, and he
Yeah.
works like a dog.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so I have something that's going to maybe help him do better.
Yes.
It's a gift. So you want to
Yes.
share your gift
Yeah.
because people have shared it with me. So,
Right.
you know, it's the
No, I love it. I love the whole idea of it. It's like, it's that's the whole thing when you run your own business, you make the rules. You can make a
right,
decision when you would love to contribute your gift to someone, you know? And of course, you've been going there since what did you say, 88 or 98?
88.
88, right.
And
Like
it's looked the
it's
same.
yeah, it's like, buddy, I'll do it for free. Just let's do it.
Well, it's I know
Uh,
that that business will do better if
yeah.
we're presenting it Friday. I know it'll do better if it looks a certain way.
You gotta worry, you might not be able to get a seat anymore once you make it better and more
Or
busier.
he may say, "What the hell are you giving me? I like it the way it is." But it's interesting. I was in
Yeah.
Chad. Chad is a country in Africa, and I
Okay,
was staying at this. It wasn't disgusting. It was a pleasant, low-level hotel,
okay.
and in the rooms they had an idea. And when I looked at it, I said, that's perfect for the sandwich shop." So I'm presenting something that is what would make that space, I think, shine different than the rest of the
Mm,
stores around it. And it came from left field. You
yes.
know, it didn't come from going through books on sandwich shops or looking at interior design magazine. It came from a just from someplace else, you know.
So, one question I would love to understand, regardless of if somebody's budget is 10K or probably multiple millions, there's been times when your budgets have been multiple millions. What is the intersection of the design versus the budget? Like, how do you
Stay within the budget.
yes, when you have this infinite, like, ideas and you're like, "This could be amazing," or budget, like, design what's the phrase? Oh my god, it just went out of my head, talk about bad memory.
Concept,
That's um, you know, gosh, when you have to design to the budget, like, it'll come to me. Um
restrictions, or
yeah, restriction. That's probably a good way to say it. Like, in other words, regardless if you're designing
uh,
on Park Avenue with a $2 million furnishing budget for 3 rooms, there's gonna be a point where you're gonna have to not put something in the design because the budget is at max. How do
can
you
I
do
give
that?
you?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to cook dinner. It has to taste decently well in what's in the refrigerator.
Okay.
Yes, you could go out and get a
Great
get
analogy.
a pheasant, but no, in the refrigerator you have eggs, you have some onion, you have cream.
Yeah.
Is it going to be
Make it work, sweetie.
so? When I'm given a budget, I know don't go there. I'm thinking really within those perimeters. I
Yeah.
don't when we
It's
just
possible is what you're saying. You stretch yourself, you
well,
stretch your creativity, and you make it work.
you don't even
Mm.
stretch it. You're just going
I don't
within.
mean stretch the budget, you stretch your own mind to make
Well,
it
no,
work.
you're just going by the perimeters, by your
Mhm,
boundaries. I
mhm.
mean, when we design a job, we design it. Client comes in, we they sign the contract. We go through questionnaires, and the space is measured, photographed. It gets drafted, given to me, and then I design the space. After that, it's drawn, it's estimated, it's all put together. I don't give choices. You know, this is the design, uh, and then presented to the client. It's like 2.5 months, or you know, around of designing, of estimating, of finding the right thing. I don't want to shoot a blank. I want to get it
Home
right.
run. Yeah,
Right. So I'm not going, oh, well, let's do that. Let's upholster the walls and Fortuny at $300 a yard. You can't. Let's paint the walls. Let's do something over the bed that works. I'm designing within what the
Yes.
givens, not.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for myself. I live in a loft. I mean, I don't have to stay at a four-star hotel. I can sleep on the floor in Africa and I'm not bothered. I am
Right.
given a budget. I am designing it for them, not for me, because I don't live like 99.99 of my clients do.
Mm.
I don't want to live that way.
Right, right, right. So when you said in there, "I pick it, it's what it is." You're like, there's not giving options.
I'm not saying, well, you have this fabric and this fabric or this plan and that plan. No, because I trust my instinct. And when my instinct says this is the right plan, I'm not going to show her three plans because two of those three is not what I think is the right thing.
Right.
But when I present it and we give them a presentation book, and I mean, we go through every pillow, every fabric, everything is priced. Oh, I just had a presentation not so long ago. Oh my God, you gave me mohair. I forgot to tell you that my daughter is allergic to different textures, and
Mm,
that's not going to work. Okay, so I found the
okay.
fabric,
Right.
or I don't like that chair. I'll tell you why that chair works because the roundness of that with the square of the sofa is a nice yin and yang. I still hate it. Okay, let me show you something else. But it's the individual things. I think if you, as a designer, business, because time is money, every hour you spend on a job, what I try to do is by designing everything at once, they are not going. If I were going and show, okay, let's go look at sofas. Okay, let's go look at club chairs. Let's go look at fabric. That's time. And that's time that may not create a cohesive design because she may like that chair and that fabric and that it may not all work together because they're looking at things individually. When they look at a total environment, then they're seeing a point of view,
Mm,
not individual pieces. So
right.
each time that you show them going into the D&D building and looking at this, it's the confused. And then who's
Right.
designing that job? Are they
Right.
designing it or are you designing it? You have to
Right.
have a conviction that what you're presenting is the right thing and know how to sell it and know how to put the excitement that you have into it and then make whatever adjustments. But you don't have to adjust everything because today she liked the chairs. Maybe tomorrow, oh, I saw in the magazine this chair.
Wow, I like it.
There's no cohesive design thread. It's just a selection. I am not hired to buy furniture. I am
Right.
hired to create an environment. And that environment is what I see. Yes, ma'am.
So I here's the thing. I'm with you. I love this. It's, it's being the leader on the project, which is exactly what you've been hired to do.
But, but,
No, and
eh,
so and I also know that maybe, maybe you were born with it. Maybe you started what from your first time you started your company after you had your training with the other firms where you understood that sentence that I am designing an environment. I'm not picking a sofa or selling you a chair. But you have to have had conversations with designers over the years who don't grasp this concept, don't understand it, and fall prey and fall victim to that. Oh, now they want the sofa reselected and then the rug reselected, and they don't stand up and say no. So I just asking, were you born with it? Did you always come to a project, even the first ones when you were brand new starting out, or did you develop the concept? Okay, so you just
because let me
yeah,
just say one thing. I worked for
yeah,
designers, but I always selected designers that had no taste. I didn't want to work for Angelo or for Mel Dwork. I have worked for people that when I left there, I knew what not to do because I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So, but those people that are doing the other, my shrink says, designers are insecure people that always want people's approval.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
Oh, do
mhm.
you like it?
Creatives.
Do you like it? Do you like it? I mean, I want you happy.
Right.
You know, I've had clients say, "Well, you're not making me happy." I said, "That's not my job. That comes from within. Happiness, comes from inside." Um, yes, they give them what they are. They happy? Because if we are in the business of just making money, we should be in Wall Street, not here, because there you're going to make much more.
Right.
We're getting paid financially, but the bigger payment is your soul. And your
Mm,
soul is the thing, that child inside of you, that when you've done what you think was the best that you could do, that child is fed.
mm,
And if that child is not being fed, then all you're getting is the money. And the
mm.
money is not enough for the that we all have to deal with. So then, but some people can't do it because maybe they don't have the vision to create a total environment.
Mhm,
It
mhm,
has to
mhm.
do with, and that's not a judgment.
No,
Maybe it is. But what are you coming to the,
actually.
no, what are you coming to the table with? Do you have, are you just good at making scrambled eggs, or are you a five-star chef?
Yes. Yes.
And that, and you know something? Those people that do that find the client that want that.
Yeah, yeah,
Water
yeah.
seeks its own level.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, I think at the level that we work, there's less of a audience,
mm,
because if you have a very clear point of view, then that client, no, oh no, I want to participate, or oh no, that's too much of a mixture, or so you
right.
limit your range of clientele by having a very clear point of view.
Mm,
But and it's always a conflict in me. But A, I don't know how to do the other, because it's so funny, because I'm working with a very instinctual. Once you start to question it, once you start to change it, it throws me off balance, because I'm I said to clients, you're coming to an artist to do your portrait. I am the artist. I'm interpreting through my point of view who you are. Uh, so it changes. There are different interpretations. But once you start like fumbling through a no vision land, I find it very hard, because I get like, I start to question. I mean, yeah, is that right? Is it not? Because it's no longer falling within my understanding.
right,
I mean, I would love to do traditional rooms, but through my point of view,
right,
yes, I'll do tiebacks, but they're going to be linen instead of chintz,
right,
and the
right,
chairs are going to be 18th century, but they may be in leather instead of a damask. But the room is going to, I think, in the long run, be more authentic than a recreation of what the past was, because we're
right,
no longer in the past, we're in the present. So
right, right.
very confusing.
Well, it's funny. I have to say, I'm really this is like just me being level with you. I am so glad that I didn't have the opportunity to interview you several years ago. I started the podcast 8 years ago, Vincent, because I wouldn't have had the perspective, the chops, the depth of understanding to really understand what you're saying. I know I wouldn't have, but it's through all these conversations over these years. And you don't know this about me. I come from 40 years of being a custom window treatment designer. And so that was my first life. And I worked with many of the top designers in New York City over those years. And that's how, the one path led to the other path. But like, I know you part of you, I'm seeing your face, part of you is like, "Is this making sense? Am I making myself understood?" But you are. And
Oh,
really
I
at the
think I am very
okay, good.
clear.
Okay,
It,
okay, good, because sometimes you're ending the sentence like, "You do you get me?"
no, I mean, did it come across in a legible or
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know you know what you're talking about, but I have gotten the sense that you're like, "Is this coming across? Are you getting it?" And I'm just telling you point blank. If I had interviewed you 6 years ago, I would be like, "That man is a lunatic. I have no idea what he's talking about." I would, but it wouldn't have been your shortcoming. It would have been my shortcoming. And so I really hear this really deep personal connection to the creative process and this deep commitment to you are the artist. You are putting together an environment, not a sofa. And when you were describing it, it's no different than if we went to Carnegie Hall and we were watching a conductor do a symphony, and from the audience, we're like, "Hey, wait, change that part there. Hey, wait," the conductor would be like, "You change one part, the whole thing dominoes." And I don't know that interior designers instinctively really value that in themselves, that they are creating a complete experience, a complete environment. And when you do your creativity from that level that you do, seeing a base, the base of a tomb, seeing a detail in a hotel room in Africa, when you're doing it at that level and you are actively pursuing and making yourself better at that level, I think that's where it comes. Like, no, you don't get to change that thing. That would be ridiculous
well,
because nothing is the same.
you can change it, but I am going to because it's their home and it's
Yeah,
their
well, I
money.
get that, but I mean, they're not like it's not like, "Here's 20 things, change 10, and we're gonna keep moving." I get
Right.
that you're a businessman, and you're not gonna, like, not be accommodating to a point, but what I'm hearing is the bigger it's the reason it belongs there for a reason. It wasn't just
Yes,
clipped.
yes, yeah.
That's the thing,
Well,
and you have the reason for it.
because if you're a good friend of mine, Tim Corrigan, amazing
Mm,
designer. I mean, charm and just I wish I was him. Um, but his rooms are like so many elements and so many
layered.
layered and
Yeah.
patterns and textures and shapes and but what I do is 10 items,
Yes,
you know,
and they all matter then, right?
right, because that's what makes it what it is, because it's a sentence. You can't take out of a sentence 5 words and still have the point come
The
across.
meaning, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so but I don't think clients understand that because I think it's interesting. There are a lot of bad architects out there, but
Mhm.
architects are respected and, like
Yes.
revered. Designers are not,
Oh,
because designers, I think, have never put across the value of the environment. Yes, it's Frank Lloyd Wright did it. Ah, the master or the master's wife created that environment. But most designers are seen as putting frosting on a cake
mm,
and not dealing with the importance of, you know, I think there's a difference between a designer and a decorator. I mean, to me, a designer is dealing with the environment, is changing walls, changing details. Uh, a designer is applying more to the space. Um, I don't know.
You mean a decorator is applying more
Right,
to the
right, right,
space.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Right, 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 like accoutrement, right, right, like adding to it, making it better,
right.
a talent unto itself. Not everybody can do it, but the distinction in your mind is that. Yeah.
And I don't see that most people understand the difference. If
Mm,
it's being done by an architect, they understand it. I mean,
mhm.
I've worked for people that I've done complete renovations. I mean, of gutting the space and recreating the environment. And then they'll say, well, should we have an architect look at it? And it's like, because they still don't,
Yes, yes.
I guess you don't have the degree, or I don't know. It's a,
Well, and that's also a lack of standards in the industry, right? I
right.
mean, that's, the architect industry is standardized. Like you don't get to put that after your name if you don't have certain credentials. And it's a quagmire,
Yes,
right? It's a quagmire.
but there are architects that are stink that have that
Yes.
after their name.
Right, well, that's like my
And
husband says, somebody
designers,
has to. Right, but Vinny always says somebody has to finish bottom of their class, like, I mean, just because, like, when we go to a doctor and, we're not happy with a doctor, I'm like, "Move on," like, somebody was at the bottom of the class. Just because this person is a doctor doesn't mean they're a good one, doesn't mean they can actually take care of us well, so,
So
I don't know.
let me ask you a question. When you talk to all these hundreds of designers, do you see a difference in, is it a business? Is it creative?
Mhm,
Uh, how do you rate in
yeah.
total the people that you have interviewed?
So here's the thing. I certainly have interviewed many people that have it all, that have the creativity, that have the business sense, that have the plan, both for a creative execution of a project, but also for the business execution of a project. I have met those unicorns. They are out there, and it's exciting to have those conversations. Then others have parts of it and they don't. Like, I can typically tell if somebody really does have their business chops, if they are running a profitable business or not. But the truth of it is, my mission is to help all designers who are interested to be better at what they do, to be better at the business side, so they can continue to put their gifts into the world. And so what I know for a fact is that each conversation, each person I speak with doesn't have to be good at all of it.
Well,
Like you said, you hire people around you to do the things that your gaps are. So I know, like, if somebody's superpower is, I remember years ago, I had a conversation with Chad James. I don't know if you
mhm.
know him, right? And this and the thing is, what the point of view on the conversation was his hiring process, like legitimately the interview process that he puts everybody through from intern all the way up. And it was so detailed and so specific. And if you needed a hiring process, you could sit with a pen and paper, listen to that episode, and make parts of it or all of it your own. And so in that hour, he's teaching us a really valuable component. So I don't need any one person. I don't need you to talk to me about what you're not good about. At If you're a good business person, you've got somebody doing that on your team. But what I want to talk to each person about is what they are good about. So with you, we thought we were going to talk about survival. What we're talking about is
But it
creativity.
is
Is where
survival.
it is.
That's
I
how
get it, and
that
I'm going to go there again. but you understand, like, I know when somebody is running a good business or not, but as long as they're doing something good, that's of service to my community
and
and to me.
I will tell you, you could be the most talented, and through the years I've met or seen really extraordinary talented people. If you're not a good business person,
No,
if you're
there's no
not
business.
running that business, you know, like, you're not going to succeed,
No,
because talent is not really what makes somebody succeed. I think running the right business can make you succeed, because you're billing, you're selling, you're, you know, presenting, you're running jobs. the right way. And if
100%.
you don't do that, you know, if you don't have the right contract, if you don't, stand for, oh, you want to change my commission? Okay, whatever. What do you want to pay me? No, I have rules. You may not want to work with me, but these are the rules how I work in business. And these are the rules how I run my business. And to
Yeah.
have you come in and tell me how to run my business, that,
No.
that doesn't work very well. Yes, you can adjust, but you're not going to. And if you don't do those things, you're not going to succeed,
No. No, it's the premise of the whole show is, what's true, what is 1000% true is magic happens when somebody has that cross section of true talent and business,
Business.
and they either have business acumen or they surround themselves with trusted people who do. But here's what's also true. That's the magic. That's the unicorns like yourself and others out there. But then what I also know is if your talent is the thing, you have super extraordinary talent and you do not run the business, a person with mediocre talent with exceptional business skills can be more successful,
Right.
will make more money. They might not get an AD 100, they may not get the accolades, but they're the ones going to be
But they'll
bringing
get
home
to
two, three, four
design.
hundred thousand dollars a year for their person, for their family, and they will consistently be designing. That is
Right.
1000% true. Yep.
Because if you don't, it's like to cook meals and nobody eats it.
Right.
To be
Right.
creative and not be able to create. I mean, that is, I'll be
It's a
very honest.
tragedy.
Well, that's my big, if she said, what is your biggest fear? Is not to be able to design. Money,
Mm,
I mean, I can't say trillions, but I could stop.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But not to create is not to hear music, not to see
Yeah. What
art.
would you get up and do? Right.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I travel already, I garden already, but if I don't design, a part of me will die,
Mm,
So,
yeah.
and if you don't run your business the right way, you won't get
You don't
that pleasure.
you won't get to do it. Exactly. So before I let you go, this has
Okay.
been such a pleasure. I appreciate you so much. We did say we were going to talk about survival, and I know all of this goes into survival, cultivating your creativity, making sure that you're running a good business, all these things. But when you think about it as a, I hate to say as a final thought because it becomes this big onerous thing. Just a closing thought, maybe advice to designers who are listening, who aspire to actually have that unicorn of talent and business, and to survive decades of it. Anything come to mind, Vincent?
Trust your gut,
Love it.
fight for what you believe,
Love it.
run your business the way you may not feel people may accept you. Oh, you're sending me a contract. Well, I don't want to sign a contract. Well, this is my contract. You have to have the conviction of self to run your business the right way and not buckle to pressure from bullies that in our business clients. There are a lot of bullies, especially the
Mhm.
ones with a lot of money.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would think the more wealthy they are, the more they think they're going to determine how the game is going to be played
right.
when they engage with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So bully, trust your gut. No, not bully. Yes, be a bully. You know,
Stand up to the bully.
stand up for what you believe, fight. It doesn't mean that you have to beat the hell out of them, but and use logic. I
Yes.
find that when they're sitting here, the husband and the wife, they don't really understand the aesthetic beauty of it, but they understand the logic. Why a
Mm,
square goes with a round, the sense of yin and yang instead of having it all the same.
the same.
Using logic, practice being a salesman because if you can't sell it,
I love it.
it doesn't go down. What else? Don't
Oh
think
my
that you
god.
can live like your clients because they have the money and you probably don't have as much. Um, to travel, to experience, um, and just you have to stand by what you believe. To be
Mhm.
dying and not to have stood for what you believe, that that's a hard pill to swallow.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Oh my goodness. You know what? This has been outstanding. It's such a pleasure and a gift to
Amazing,
talk to
amazing.
you. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much, Vincent,
Thank
really.
you. Thank you for having me and to help me share with people that really, if it helps them, people help me. So if I can help others, and if they like, they should buy my book that
That's
just
right.
came out in the at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we will put the links to all of your books
thank you.
in the show notes for the episode 1000%, and I'll be sure to mention them when I talk about this in my outro.
One has to make a buck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true. It's all about the business. We
Yeah.
gotta do that first.
Thank you.